Hey everybody, Mike here. I'm looking at section 2.8, so let's do some problems. Our first one is this: translate to an inequality. The average speed s was between 90 and 100 miles an hour. So we know that we're going to take, let's grab a blue here, and we're going to have s sitting in between 90 and 100. And the question is it a weak inequality or a strict inequality? That is, are we allowed to be 100 miles an hour? And the answer is no. Our speed cannot be equal to 100 miles an hour. It has to be between 90 and 100, not at either endpoint. So we erase that, and 90 less than s less than 100 is our answer. Great, next problem. Joe's Electric made 16 customer calls last week and 22 calls this week. How many calls must be made next week in order to maintain an average of at least 20 calls per week for the 3-week period? Now there's a way to do these problems where you're just counting like how far above and how far below you are, how far in the hole you are, and how far ahead you are. But we're going to do this by using an average, and an average is you add them all up and you divide by the number there are, and that's your average. So we need 16 plus 22 plus the third week divided by all 3 weeks to be at least, and that means it can be equal to, 20 calls. So that's 38 plus x divided by 3 has to be greater than or equal to 20. That means that 38 plus x has to be greater than or equal to 60. And when we subtract 38, we'll see that x has to be greater than or equal to 22. And you can see here that 16 translates into being 4 in the hole. 22 translates into being 2 above the average. So we need to get at least 2 above the average as well to end up being at 0 on the average. Okay, next question. Actually, this one first. To make copies of blueprints, Vantage Reprographics charges a $5 setup fee plus $3 per copy. Mira can spend no more than $38 for copying her blueprints. What number of copies will allow her to stay within budget? So suppose she gets 2. Then it's the $5 setup fee plus 3 times 2, which is 5 plus 6, which is 11, which is no more than 38 bucks. So we can see what we're going to do here. We're going to take 5. We're going to add it to 3 times the number of copies, and that has to be less than or equal to 38. So that means 3 times the number of copies has to be less than her budget minus that $5 setup fee. And since we're getting $3 per copy and we have $33 for copies, that means we can get 11 copies. Okay, now let's tackle that reduced fat cookie question. A reduced fat cookie contains 6 grams of fat per serving. In order for food to be termed reduced fat, it must have at least 25% less fat than the regular item. What can you conclude about how much fat is in a serving of the regular cookie? 25% less means 75% of the original. I have got my whole cookie here. and I remove 25% of the fat, that leaves 75% of it. So if my original cookie was, say, 12 grams, 75% of 12 is 8 grams of fat. So 6 is then the upper limit of 75%. So we're going to find 6 is 75% of what? So that's 0.75. X has to be greater than that 6. Or 8. 8 grams of fat. That's it for this video. See you next time.